understanding how sentiment is changing, investor sentiment, is an important consideration thinking about how markets might behave. The more investors are extraordinarily pessimistic and likely to get less so, the more likely you are to have an up market. The more investors are more optimistic and likely to get more optimistic, you might even get more upside. But if they're too optimistic and about to get more pessimistic, markets are likely to do badly. And everyone knows that. The question is, what are things that you might use to measure sentiment? And what I'm going to say now speaks to a point that's, for me, been a point of some confusion in my life. And that's that it used to be true, and this may not ring a bell for you very well if you're a younger person and don't have these older memories. But it used to be true that you could actually assess sentiment relatively well by focusing on media and seeing signs of sentiment in media. But media has changed so much since the maturity of the internet to where, because what media sells to advertisers is based on getting you to click and then time you spend paying attention to that which you clicked on, there's a tendency for it to become more extreme and to be more dramatic and to not necessarily reflect sentiment so well. So in my opinion, and then of course also a lot of this, if you're like watching television, for example, whether you're watching MSNBC or Fox, is very politicized, and you know it's very politicized. And if it's consistent with your political views and ideologies, you like it, and if not, you dislike it. And you know all that. I'm not telling you anything you find shocking. And because of that, it's harder to use media to assess sentiment. There are things you can do to try to assess sentiment, but it gets not so precise, requires a lot of different inputs. I can't depict that for you easily. Some of the things that people often cite are not terribly useful. For example, more and more things we know today aren't so useful for this. Things like the consumer sentiment indexes. These consumer sentiment indexes actually have always been measured to be coincident indicators. They don't help you predict. They tell you where things are at the moment, but you can't use them as a contrarian indicator. So sadly, this becomes a harder and harder tool to use. I wish I had a better answer for you, but that's the way I see that. Thank you.
Subscribe to the Fisher Investment YouTube channel if you like what you've seen. Click the bell to be notified as soon as we publish new videos.